Hello and welcome to an unscheduled presentation from In the Money Media, but one I'm very happy to be doing. Interesting Friday of racing around the U.S. We know about the Keeneland contest that you have to be there for, the Keeneland contest tomorrow, great racing, and our horse players qualifier directly for the BCBC also happening over at horseplayers.com. But we got carryovers that we want to talk about on this show, and there's two of them. One is in the coast-to-coast bet between Gulfstream and Santa Anita, and then the other is in the Sunset Six. So we decided we're going to call this sort of an In the Money Plus preview, the kind of pop-up shows we do from time to time, give you a sense of what we're all about on the In the Money Plus side. If you want to learn more, inthemoneypodcast.com/plus. Not only will you get a lot of extra content, you'll also get our full Breeders' Cup package. PTF here with Nick Tammaro. Hello to those of you watching on the streams, to First Social Media, like Gulfstream, Santa Anita, wherever you're watching. We're happy to have you here. Nick, how are things? How psyched are you for this loaded Friday of racing?
Going great. Nothing better than an exciting Friday to whet your appetite a little bit for the weekend, right?
Yeah, we're going to be cruising through these races. We start off with race number 6 at Gulfstream. This is where the coast-to-coast kicks off. The carryover at $48,661 going to be added to the pot. How do you want to start off this fun wager?
Yeah, I wanted to get a little more ambitious here, Pete, and try and single the 6 Girl Dynamite. Blinkers on, first off the claim, Carlos David. Main speed on paper, Jaramillo getting on, which just about guarantees a forwardly placed trip. And he's 35%, 212 ROI, first off the claim on the dirt at Gulfstream. Always been a barn that's at its best, really off the claim. So I felt like that was one where I wanted to plant a little bit of a flag. I get the 2 Fully Entitled is the horse to beat, but this is a horse that's had a hard time winning races, is actually somewhat surprisingly just 1 for 6 since being claimed by Safi. And that was an $8,000 2 life back in June. That was hardly a some kind of vintage performance, getting a 59 buyer. So I thought maybe she was a horse you could take on a little bit, and I wanted to kind of focus on Girl Dynamite.
We have the same top pick, but I don't have the same type of confidence in her. Maybe that'll change by the time we get to the off and see what happens, especially with scratches. But the other Carlos David runner in here just threw me off a little bit about Girl Dynamite. I wanted to use them both as A's. Girl Dynamite, you already made the case. Spicy Guacamole also makes sense and also has speed. So I was just a little concerned about potential weirdness with team tactics. You mentioned I had listed as a backup, Fully Entitled. Might be too far back in here too, but this horse has the best dirt figs. So I wanted to include. And Slew Diva, another one who may be on a deep backup I could throw in. But that one I could be easily convinced to fade because one of the David runners is going to probably deny her the lead, and that could make it tricky for her. But I listed it as 6 and 4 on the A line, 2 and 7 on the B line as we head out to Southern California for Santa Anita and their curtain jerker on this Friday card, where I liked it looked straightforward to me with 2 runners. Princess Snow, I thought, looked to be the clear speed for James Cassidy. Good to see him back out there with a couple horses, such a fixture on the scene when I was following it day in, day out religiously a decade ago. The work suggests Princess Snow might be ready off the bench. And the one runner, I'm a Joker, in good form, and the figure horse, if can get any kind of setup. I had it 4 and 1 in Santa Anita's first. What did you have out there?
Yeah, I can't say I disagree much at all. I really don't disagree whatsoever. I thought I'm a Joker was clearly the horse to beat. You know, they list these $50,000 starters a little bit differently in terms of the conditions. And I'm a Joker is actually coming out of the same condition, but this is listed as a $50,000 starter, whereas last time was listed as a $50,000 starter non-3, which is the same race. So she's coming out of a performance that was just a lot better than I think what most of her competition in here has regularly put forth. I guess my only question, Pete, was that she's been a bit reinvented of late as an off-the-pace horse. And I'm not sure that doesn't give me a little bit of concern because her lone win did come when she wired the field. But I do think your idea is right that if you try a horse like Princess Snow, it probably covers those bases. I will say, though, I'm not going to be shocked if Hector Berrios looks at the PPs for this race and decides, you know what, I'm putting I'm a Joker on the lead. Or I'm putting her as close as possible, and that'd be a good thing.
Yeah, we've seen her win with that style, but you're right. It was a form cycle ago. Hard to know. We'll try to get out 1 and 4. Let's zip back to Miami and go to Gulfstream for the 7 furlong maiden special weight for 3 and up. Nick, we'll keep it with you.
Yeah, this is a race, I think, where you're going to be dealing with a pretty strong favorite in the 7 Skellig Michael for Victor Barboza Jr. That was a fast-paced race last time. This horse stayed on pretty gamely. He's basically run some slightly different version of the same race 3 times. And you know what? It's probably good enough to win this race. It's going to take a horse that is able to run a 70-plus Beyer speed figure to do it. There's only one horse in here who's ever done that, and it came in a race where I think the fig is a little suspect with the one He's a Beast, who came back and ran very poorly, now draws the rail and has to try and negotiate a trip from there. I was a little intrigued by the 4 big dividend on the slight cutback, a mile to 7 furlongs. I do like the cutbacks. I don't want to be too dismissive of the 5 Thought Control, who has speed, got involved in a really strong pace last time before understandably tiring, should get better second time out. But I think ultimately I wanted to pick Skellig Michael, and I'll use Big Dividend as well as A's. I'd probably back up with the 1 and 5.
Okay, that makes sense. You covered the numbers that I wanted to talk about. I mean, Skellig Michael sets the standard, no doubt about it. I just thought was a little bit exposed in a race with maybe some other interesting options. It's going to be foolish to let this horse beat you. I have as an A. But I did put Thought Control on top, exiting that live race where the horse caught a little money, been rebooted since, and the works look good. And I just thought this Gunrunner colt might have the most upside of the runners in this field. I was going to use He's a Beast as well. What I liked about that figure, it's interesting you're calling into question, but just the fact that it was earned, a figure anywhere near that by one of these was earned back in January makes me a little interested. Race 2, easily excused as it preceded a layoff. It's a big rise in class, but the September 13th work looked to maybe indicate some readiness. I was going to mess around 5, 1, and 7. We'll keep it right here at Gulfstream as we move along to race number 8. I'll mention this again, but races 7, 8, and 9, obviously, we'll touch back on when we get to the Sunset 6 portion of the show. But race number 8 is this $25,000 starter, and one where I wanted a few. I actually listed 4 runners to potentially use in here. The one, Burn Away, back down in class, well drawn, maybe the best closer in a race with speed. Zozukara makes all the sense to me. Should be able to get a good trip off the pace despite the wide post. Last race was a career top against Weaker, but this is a late season 3-year-old, so that improvement might be a new level of ability. And D'Angelo, the new trainer, should keep this one moving forward. Plain Champagne, the 2, fits the profile of a race winner here as a closer with figures that are competitive. And then I have so many closers. I want something going forward somewhere. Maybe that's the 3, Lady River Lily, dirty form, way over the head at Saratoga. I can make a little case off that run 2 back. Not thrilled with the horse, but I want something near the front. So 1, 9, 2, and 3 for me. Do you like any of those? Do you want to introduce something else to the discussion?
No, you touched on a lot of the principles in here. And Lady River Lily was sort of my off-the-wall type recent bullet workout at some training facility that's abbreviated OXF. We'll just call it Oxford. And go on from there. So she's practically a Rhodes Scholar at this point. And this filly's just been facing better horses. I mean, I know this is probably bad. It's probably on par with a 35-2 life at Saratoga because there are a number of horses in here who've won multiple times. But I mean, she's galloping around there with Cornelia Hartzmar in races that are too tough for her. You've got to try her back at home where she's run credibly. She's run some speed figures that put her in the mix, and she's going to be a big price. So Zucker is the horse to beat. As you said, what kind of trip is she going to get from out there? How much pace is there going to be in front of her? She seems a little bit immune to bad pace setup. She's got enough tactical speed. She's the horse to beat. I would probably try those 2 as mains, the 3 and 9, and try and get out alive. But I would definitely have the 1 and 2, the other couple that you mentioned among the backups that I would use. I'd probably also try to squeeze the 7 in there, Mary Marguerite, who did improve by leaps and bounds first time turf. Felt like a horse that might be able to get a little bit better as she gets more experience.
Let's go back to Santa Anita to close out the coast-to-coast portion of the card. We go to race number 3, $25,000 claimers. I'll throw the ball right back in your court, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to take a huge stand in here, but I do think that the 2 agency comes into this in a pretty good fashion on the big class drop. There are horses on the outside that also come into this, I think, with the right kind of class situation. But agency most recently was sixth, beaten a good bit of distance, but that was against much better, right? It was two other than optional claimers. This is a big drop in class, second off the layoff, capable of showing some speed. I really like forwardly placed horses on the straightaway turf sprints at Santa Anita. I think they have a pretty massive advantage. And you know what, Pete, there's not really a lot of pace in here. Jetivator on the outside is going to show a little bit of speed. I guess better days are coming, won't be that far off of it. But I like the chances that agency had in terms of a pace setup. So I'm going to use the 2, 7, and 8, probably press an extra ticket or two with the 2.
Man, we are in lockstep on this sequence. The 8 Jetivator was the one I happened to put on top, but I had all those as A's. Jetivator being a flow move up, coming out of the last race, I thought maybe could prove to be the best speed and get a little bit of an advantage. This is an old pro that tends to fire fresh. Nothing against agency. Probably wins this race off the runs 2 and 3 back. As you pointed out, has that pace to be involved early. The 7, Better Days Coming, fits, makes sense off the Papa Padromo claim. One other I'll mention is the 6, Simplexity, dropping down sensibly in the second start off the claim for Mullins. If I can squeeze a fourth one onto the ticket, it would be the 6. But 8, 2, 7, and 6 for me. 2, 7, and 8 for Nick to close out the coast to coast. We already talked about the 7th and 8th, which will kick off the Sunset 6. Carryover there is $54,239, and it'll continue with race number 9. What do you think about this one, the last of the Gulf races we'll talk about?
Yeah, this is a tricky one, and I think one where you probably want to be. These sequences are tricky, right? I mean, you have to do 6 instead of 5, and an $8,000 2 life is hardly one where you can garner a tremendously strong opinion. I mean, I do think the 2 Tinka 2 is dangerous going back to dirt. I wish he'd run a little bit better 2 back on the dirt, right? That was a pretty brutal run at Colonial. I know she got bumped at the start. She rushed up, but she just completely stopped on a dime. The 4 Merdama is the horse to beat. She was a voided claim out of a win at Monmouth, and now Safi, who ran her that day for 40, is running her for 8, sort of the ultimate please claim me sign. But when you're dealing with horses like Bella Mendy and Sweet Sash as some of the main players, I guess you're supposed to feel a little bit better. So, I mean, I think I'm skinny enough early on ticket-wise, and that's the only way, to do something here where I can be a little bit more, I guess, open to horses. So I'm going to use the 2. I'm going to use the 4. I might even find a way to use the 3 as a backup, and I'll have the 7 and 8 on side, but likely just as backups.
Gotcha. I wanted to talk about that you didn't mention. I do think your point about the giveaway is certainly correct on Merdama, but it's also one of those things of the hands the horse is in. I mean, Safi, we've seen him do this. He has this one leaves the barn, another one will come right in. It's not the same kind of negative for me. Merdama, just so logical off the figs 2 and 3 back. I'm not in a hurry to trust this horse at a short price, don't get me wrong, but it has to be on tickets. 5 Spatula was one I'll mention, who I thought could get the lead here. Does have one good number, and this is a low-profile outfit, but that can win races. So if I was going to try to be a little cheeky, that's one I'd throw in. Tinka 2, another candidate to be the best speed in light 2 with the apprentice for a barn that wins. So I had it 4, 5, and 2. I'll take longer looks at the other numbers you mentioned as we head back out to Santa Anita to close this thing out with the Sunset 6. We get our little dinner break, and it'll continue with a 1 1/8 race. It's an optional claimer, 80,000, with a non-winners of 2 lifetime condition attached as well. Who did you like in here?
Yeah, I thought this wasn't necessarily the easiest spot. I guess you're going to have a favorite like the 4 Certitude, who's 2 to 1 on the morning line that, doesn't exactly scream bet me. All in all, she's got the best credentials, I think, of anybody in here, but stretches back out in distance. I don't really love 5 to 9 furlongs. And forgive me, Pete, but this horse doesn't exactly make me feel like she's dying for 9 furlongs. So
no,
I was a little concerned about that. I felt like the alternatives probably included the 5 Hannah Buckle, who was a good winner 2 back. It was a better field last out behind Vibes and Spicy Bug. Now she goes the 1 1/8. I don't think that's going to do her any harm. I do think she does have a bit of a compact run that might be a little bit better suited to a mile, but I don't want to split hairs. And I think the horse to beat is the 7 Paradise Lake. This horse had real trouble last time out. A lot of the comment lines in Southern California are just woefully overrated in terms of the trouble that horses have. But she did get into a little traffic at the wrong time. Now gets Juan Hernandez coming back off a break. She's the horse to beat. A 1 1/8 is obviously her ideal trip, given that she's a winner going this distance and finished a good third against one other then. So I'm going to pick the 7 Paradise Lake on top. I'll probably use the 4 and 5 as backups and just try and and hopefully have a good opinion here.
Yeah, I like the more certitude in your approach to certitude, though I guess not fully.
Pun intended. Good work there.
If you're using as a backup, I guess that's not exactly right. But I don't know. I was going to keep involved for sure. And it sounds like we do agree on that. I mean, the horse is usually thereabouts, regardless of the previous distances, possible best speed. And on the blood, you can make a case. The way the horse shapes in the races, maybe not so much. I definitely won. I had as a very tentative top pick with 3 others that I also want to use pretty much equally, including the 8 Hopeful, set the pace in the grade 2 maybe, where she was outclassed. But this horse is versatile in terms of running style, and I think these will prove to be her friends. The 6 Kinjani, I kept coming back to, just because I think on balance, the form is a little dark, based on racing against some better horses and having some unfavorable flows. One of those weird ones where I think I looked 3 times and said, nah, and then the 4th time I said, you know what? I've looked at this horse too much. I need to keep on side. And then Paradise Lake just makes plenty of sense. I mean, had great setups, but this horse can obviously win and probably needs to be included. So 4, 8, 6, and 7 for me as we move to the 8th race at Santa Anita, where we have the $10,000 claimers going 5.5. And this is a spot where I was going to try to just get away with 2 of them. The 2 Auditory, I thought looked just the best of them on form and figures, and probably has the right blend of speed and stamina to get a good trip at this level. I did want to use also Feisty Matoli. This is a winning sort with a good draw. Those were the 2 I liked, 2 and 8. You with me, or you want to bring some others to the party?
Yeah, I'm with you on both. I think Auditory is the horse to beat by far. Only other horse I'd mention, and she's got a little bit of refuser to her, but I thought the 6 Woodbine Way had worked her way into pretty good form of late. Might be able to get the right stock and pounds trip. Just going to be a matter of whether she can find that last little bit that she needs to really cash in, because she's gotten herself into position and then ultimately come up short quite a few times. But I do think 2 and 8 are definitely the top 2 for me, and I would back up with the 6.
We close out with Santa Anita's 9th race. We've got optional claimer 20,000. First level allowance condition as well. It's a mile on the turf. When it comes to this Sunset 6 with the nice carryover on Friday, Nick, how are we going to get paid?
Yeah, I would have liked the 3 if I thought she was going to be a bit better price, but obviously the morning line maker noticed that she had some real trouble last out and figures to be a horse that gets a good amount of support. So I thought Vodka was in many ways the horse to beat. She wants to be a lot more forward than she was last time. That obviously had to do with the opening furlong or so of that race, and then she got into a little bit more trouble after that. So I'm willing to take her back. Winning Patriot is going to be the favorite. I think when all is said and done, solid effort last out, has every right to improve as well. I don't have a big argument against. I think if there's a horse that could be a decent price that I'd want to try, it'd probably be the 1 Stolen Treasure, second off a long layoff for Eddie Freeman. Won at 6 furlongs last out, which leads me to believe she's going to be a little more forward. And that he should be a little more forward, I should say. And that Snow Chief was actually a pretty good effort. Got a 74 buyer, but got nearly 100 time from U.S. Final Fig and was always within range of a pretty strong pace. So I felt like he was a horse you could upgrade a little bit as well.
I have a couple of creative, maybe 2 creative ideas in this spot. I'll run them by you. One was Kerry Gold, who did run 80s in each of the last 2 turf runs against better. I was thinking maybe this is a horse you can give a shot at a price. Vodka. Yeah, that you mentioned about the trip. This horse did not appreciate the restraint. That's how I'll say it. And has more speed than that. Should be seen to better effect. Is there a story to tell about the 2-runner Druidic? Those Del Mar races aren't far off what it would take to win this. Those were 3 I was focusing on, 7, 3, and 2. Maybe trying to sneak in a price here to close things out at Santa Anita. Are you buying anything with the 7 or the 2?
I like the idea of Druidic. As far as Kerry Gold goes, I like the butter. But I do think Druidic's a little dangerous, and that form's darkened a little bit by the bad recent dirt race. But you're absolutely right. I mean, the 2 turf races, I do think they came against lesser top to bottom, but speed figure-wise, they're right in line with what he'd need to win this.
All right, we are out of time on this show. Appreciate everybody watching, whether it's through Gulfstream, Santa social media, or In the Money Media on our YouTube channel, website, wherever you get our content. Appreciate you, Nick. Thanks so much to our friends at First. Make sure you check out In the Money Plus, inthemoneypodcast.com/plus, and may you win all your photos.